It is without a doubt the game of the week, and it may be a candidate for game of the year. It's number 8 Oregon and number 7 Washington. A massive rivalry game with major Pac-12 title implications and major college football playoff implications. It's a game that very well could be dubbed the shootout in Seattle. So now the only question is, who is going to win it? That is the question we're going to answer today. So welcome back to the Gridiron Expert. We're so glad that you could join us today to break down this massive, colossal matchup between the Oregon Ducks and the Washington Huskies. As always, please continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and check out everything down in the description below, including our expert picks over on our website, thegridironexpert.com. We are on a 36-15 run over the last 5 weeks. So if you want guaranteed winnings, massive winnings right back in your pocket, the best picks in the country that'll be at over 80% of the national handicappers each of the last 5 years, the best customer service any handicapper is going to give you, and a full year-long subscription. So if you buy now, you get it through week 7 of next year. This is the place for you. Go sign up for those picks today. You will win big with us, just like we've done each of the last 5 years. Also, check out our Patreon account and our mailing address to send us some of your team's gear to put in the background here. We've got our Washington pennant behind us, courtesy of our man Keto. No Oregon gear yet, although I'm hoping we get some soon. But we got a lot of gear. We'd love to represent your team in every single video, especially for games like this. So let's just take a look at this game, guys. I am beyond psyched for this game on Saturday afternoon. A big rivalry game and a game that between two of the best offenses and two of the best quarterbacks in the entire country. You take a look at the overall history here. Washington does own the series edge over Oregon. They own the all-time series edge, but recently it's been all Oregon. The Ducks are 16-5 against Washington since 2000, although the Huskies did storm into Eugene last year and pulled off the massive upset, 37-34, ultimately ending Oregon's college football playoff hopes. This year, game's not as late into the year. A loss for one of these teams is not in their playoff hopes, but it leaves very little room for error the rest of the way. Take a look at the offenses. We'll start with Oregon. It's the Bo Nix show. I mean, let's be honest here. The offense is Bo Nix. An offense averaging nearly 560 yards per game, averaging over 330 passing yards per game. Nix has already thrown for over 1,400 yards, 15 touchdowns, just one interception. It's unreal. His numbers are ridiculous. He's a true Heisman candidate, and his teams to be getting better and better every single week. Last year, he got injured late against Washington. Some credit that to the loss for Oregon. I would disagree there, but obviously he was never the same following the rest of that game and obviously the rest of the season. This is a team that's also averaging over 227 rushing yards per game. They've got a dual-headed monster there, a dual threat with Bucky Irving, 393 yards and 4 touchdowns, and Jordan James, who's rushed for nearly 300 yards and 7 touchdowns as well. Troy Franklin, though. Talk about him. Troy Franklin, to me, is the X factor in this game for Oregon. This is a guy that has over 530 reception yards, 7 touchdowns, is clearly the top target for Bo Nix. And for Oregon to come into Seattle and win this game, for Oregon to come in here and match Washington step for step, they're going to need a big game from Troy Franklin, no doubt about it. You take a look at Washington. This, and I've been saying this for weeks, I feel like is the best offense in the country. I'm not saying they're the best team in the country, but they have the best offense in the country. Averaging nearly 570 yards per game, 446 of those coming through the air, led by Michael Penix, who without a doubt, once again, is a Heisman Trophy contender, has thrown for nearly 2,000 yards. He's 1 yard shy of 2,000 yards on the year, 16 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, takes phenomenal care of the football, and he's leading an offense, guys, that scored at least 31 points in every single game this season. It is very, very difficult to slow down this Washington attack. It's very, very difficult to get stops against Michael Penix and the Huskies. It's very difficult to even hold them to field goals. This is a dangerous team. 6 guys have over 100 reception yards on the year, led by Rome Odunze, 608 yards, 4 touchdowns. You got Jalen Polk in there, 468 yards on the year, and Jalen McMillan, who was injured a few weeks ago against Michigan State, but should, in theory, return this week against Oregon. This is a fast offense. This is an efficient offense. This is a team that if you are not on your A game, they will torch you every single drive. Which leads us to the question here. Both teams have fantastic offenses. Both teams have fantastic quarterbacks. So which defense will step up and make the plays when needed? We take a look at Oregon first. This is an Oregon team that led by a head coach in Dan Lanning that is a defensive-minded coach. Sometimes it hasn't always been seen in some of their losses in recent years. But Dan Lanning knows defense, and he knows it well. And you know they're scheming up a way to try to find some sort of way to slow down Michael Penix. But the thing about this, guys, is you do not just Oregon, anybody, you do not stop Michael Penix in Washington. You can only slow them down. You will not completely shut them down. You can only hope to slow them down. And that, if I'm Dan Lanning, that's what I'm hoping to do. Limit those big plays and just slow down the Huskies' offense. Washington's offense will be the best offense that Oregon has seen all year so far in the season. Might be the best offense they do see all season long. The closest test, I guess, that Oregon has faced offensively was Texas Tech back in week 2. Oregon in that game allowed 456 yards of offense, although they did force 4 turnovers. That was a big win for the Ducks. The Ducks do have 18 sacks on the year. They're really good at creating pressure, although Washington so far has only allowed 3 sacks. That's due to how fast they get the ball out of Penix's hand, but also his little bit of mobility as well. Penix knows how to escape the pocket. He can extend plays, which helps in turn keep those sack numbers down. They're only giving up 153 passing yards per game, guys. That's the thing. Oregon's secondary has been pretty solid, but again, they haven't faced a team in an offense like this. Not even close. So the 153 passing yard per game numbers are going to be a little skewed and definitely will not be the case come Saturday. Washington, their defense also facing the best offense they have seen all year. No doubt about it. And you look at the numbers and you go, wow, Oregon defensively, statistically, is way better than Washington. The Huskies giving up 365 yards per game. That's 110 yards per game more on average than Oregon. I will agree with that. I think Oregon maybe does own that slight defensive edge. However, some of those numbers for Washington have been a little bit skewed considering they're blowing teams out of the water, and some of these teams are getting some extra points, some extra scores, some extra yards in garbage time when the game is completely out of reach. Take that California game, for example, where Washington was up, like 42-12 at halftime. The game ended up looking a little bit closer than it really was. California getting a lot of big-time chunk plays and yards and points later in the game when the game clearly was already out of reach. And it was out of reach after the first half. So, obviously, something to keep in mind there. But the Huskies are giving up 243 passing yards per game. They have to find a way to slow down Bo Nix. And I'll make the same statement. I don't really think you can completely shut down this Oregon offense. You hope to slow them down, but I don't think you can completely shut them down. This is a Washington defense, guys, that is only giving up 121 rushing yards per game. And if I'm obviously either of these teams, the obvious stat line here is find a way to slow down the passing attack, make life difficult for Michael Penix, make life difficult for Bo Nix. Find a way to make them really have to sit back there and read that defense. Make them get a little bit of pressure on that. Force them into a handful of mistakes. Force them into some second and third and long situations. These offenses are capable of picking them up, but if you can make life difficult for the quarterbacks to where they go, maybe we need to run the ball more, then you're winning. Force Oregon, force Washington. If you're the defensive coordinator of these games, force them to slow them down through the air. Force the opposing team to run the ball. Because quite frankly, can both teams do it? Yes. Do both teams want to do it? No, they do not. They definitely don't. Washington at a slight disadvantage here as well. They don't have much of a pass rush. They only have 6 sacks on the year. Oregon has only allowed 3. So both offensive lines extremely strong. Both quarterbacks going to sit in their pocket and deliver. So which team can create the most pressure on the opposing quarterback? Which team can slow down the opposing quarterback the most? Which team can maybe force the other team to run more often than they want? That is the million-dollar question. So you take a look at this game, guys. It's epic. Top 10 showdown in Seattle. Title implications of the conference. Playoff implications. This is a huge resume-boosting win for both these teams. And keep in mind the schedule not getting any easier for both. You know, Oregon still got to play Utah and USC. Washington still has to play USC. I mean, this and Washington State by season's end. This is a Pac-12 conference that really seems like it's just going to beat up on each other and maybe ultimately keep themselves out of the playoff. We hope that's certainly not the case for the conference in their last year of existence. This game, though, going to be absolutely epic. Back and forth, just like it was last year. I think you'll see a lot of points scored in this game. And you take a look. Washington, to me, owns the offensive edge. I think Oregon owns that defensive edge. So the question is, can the home field advantage in Seattle be that X factor? Can that give Washington that extra edge and give the Huskies the win? I think it can. I think it can. Washington will beat Oregon on Saturday. Both quarterbacks will easily eclipse over 250 passing yards on the day, but it's the Washington defense that comes up big late, just like they did last year in Eugene, to give Kalen DeBoer, Michael Penix, and the Huskies this massive, massive victory, keep them undefeated, and keep them currently as the favorite to win the Pac-12 and possibly make the college football playoff as a representative from that conference. This is going to be an electric game. It's going to be an unbelievable game. Game of the week, maybe one of the games of the year, but Washington prevails. make sure, guys, keep in mind, this could be the first of 2 meetings this year, as Washington and Oregon could face off again in the Pac-12 championship. Washington takes round 1. We'll keep our fingers crossed that we get a round 2. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and of course, check out everything down in the description below, including those expert picks over on our website, thegridironexpert.com. Again, some of the best picks in the entire country, 36-15 run right now, guaranteed winnings. You're missing out if you haven't signed up. Go sign up for those today. And as always, guys, please thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.
Yeah.